Network Entertainment.
You're watching and listening to Now Steaming, where we dish out our hot takes as Chinoy Millennials. I'm Stan C, and with me as always is one of my co-hosts and co-collaborators, Kimberly Mass of So Asian Comics. Kim, I know Sed's not here, so on behalf of everyone, let me wish you a happy Valentine's.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Yes.
Happy Valentine's. Sakto Valentine's wala rin. He's busy planning for Valentine's Day. No, I'm kidding.
And the wedding.
And that too.
Daming ginagawa ni Sed, so he's super busy right now. But it is the season of love. And syempre tayo mga Chinoy, we are not immune to the festivities of Valentine's season. So we're gonna be talking about that this week on the show. Pero syempre kailangan may Chinoy twist. And I think this is, yung topic natin this week is something that we haven't really talked about yet. We've kind of alluded to it here and there. We've whined
even in previous
and
seasons,
ranted
right?
about it. Yeah, we've ranted about it here and there, but not really
Into detail.
Dive.
Oo.
So I think it's time that we actually talk about kaishaos and, to help us navigate through the modern kaishao and what that's like in 2025. We've got with us a couple that met through an online kaishao platform who actually worked out. They ended up getting married, and we'll get to know their love story and everything else in between. So please welcome to the show, Myles and Christel Salud.
Hi, hello.
Thank you so much for joining us, Myles and Christel. When you say the word kaishao, diba, it always has this connotation that these are two people who had no pre-existing relationship, were introduced by someone else. So, can we start with your love story? Like, how did you guys meet, and paano ba kayo pinakilala sa isa't isa? Because that's what kaishao really means, diba? To introduce, diba? Ipakilala ang isa't isa.
Do you want to go?
Sure. Generally, there was so we met in the pandemic. I think that's the main context that I'll start with. So obviously during the pandemic, there was MECQ. People weren't allowed to be outside their house. And it just so happened that during that time, Facebook had a group that was called Philchai Kaishao Group. Essentially, what happens there is you can sort of like auction up your friends, and then whoever wants to talk to them or be kaishao to them can be commented. So your friend can be the one to comment your name or something, right? And generally, that's how you sort of like kick things off. So how we started was one of my friends was one of the admins in that group. He added my whole barkada essentially. And then out of their boredom, because we were essentially like a group of bachelors, they were like, okay, let's test with one of us, right? And then essentially tested with me. So,
But ikaw?
Wala lang, trip lang nila.
Were you the only single one? Or?
No.
Nilag nga sila, bachelor.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
trip lang talaga nila. Because I think I'm the more stoic one out of all of us. So, sila yung makulog. Ako yung medyo seryoso sa amin.
Okay.
So maybe that's part of them like making fun of me. So yeah, they posted me. And then the next thing I knew, like there were like people commenting, tagging their friends to like talk to me, ganon. So there were also DMs, people reaching out.
Do you remember how many DMs you got?
So offhand, I do.
Laughing. Okay, what's the number?
So there at overall it reached around 20.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So the thing is, I'm a very serious guy, nga, so I'm like, I can't handle all of these simultaneously, and I can only handle one conversation at a time.
Okay.
It just so happened that we had a common friend. So that common friend was a colleague of mine when I was working that time, who was like, hey, Myles, saw your post. There's this friend of ours who came back from the US. Are you open to like, talk to her and all that? I'm like, sure. Because this friend of, yung common friend naman namin, I was like, she's pretty decent, like matinong friend naman. So I was like, okay, kung matino naman yung kaibigan, matino rin naman yung ikakaisha, di ba? So that was like the logic I had. And yun, parang after that, she created a chat group na there were the three of us to sort of like formally introduce us. And then from there, like, half a day or one day lang ata, and then she left the group, and then we were like just chatting na lang pretty much every day. And yeah, parang from chatting every day, I think 2-3 months in, we then hopped into like video calls, and then we met in person for the first time like 9 months into like chatting, kasi that was the time that MECQ was a bit lighter na. And then the following year, January, we became official. 1 year after I proposed, 1 year after we got married. So, yeah.
Let's get your wife's point of view. Christel, ikaw,
I'm ready.
you were in the Phil Chai Kai Shao group din, di ba? So, why were you there? Kasi, di ba, you just come from the US. So, what was the reason na nandun ka sa group na yon?
So, nandun lang ako kasi lurker ako. So, a lot of my friends are single and then they get posted there and a lot of them are looking for a relationship. So, I like to upvote. I like seeing who's posting who. And then, I actually didn't see his post.
Okay.
2020, because I came back technically 2019. I did the whole online dating thing and was like, 2020, ayoko na mag-date, nakakapagod. So 2020, I was like, I will not date. I will not intentionally look for like people to date. But if an opportunity comes, game naman. And that time, my best friend was dating someone. Tapos sabi niya, sabayan ko daw siya.
Para pareho kayo may jowa.
Parang pareho kami nagsasaya. Nagda-date. Oo, ganun.
Okay.
And then I said, okay, but ayoko nga maghanap ng lalaki. Like, I'm not gonna do online dating. I won't do anything. You give me a guy or whatever. So she was like, oh, sige. So she went to Phil Chai Kai Shao and she took screenshots of different guys who she thinks matched who she thought matched my requirements. And then I was just like, same kami. I can't do multiple guys at the same time. Parang I need one conversation, focus on one conversation lang. So I was like, okay, let's just start with the first one. He was the first one. So like, we were stalking him, obviously, as girls do. And then we saw on Facebook that we had a mutual friend. So yung friend, my best friend, went to the girl chat group and was like, hey, friend, kumusta si Myles? Ganon. And then suddenly they were like, are you asking this for Christel? Kasi group chat yun, diba?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And then yun na, nag-usap na lahat. Parang okay naman siya, ganyan. And I remember I was just like, let them talk or whatever. I'm just gonna go to sleep. The next day, I wake up in the morning. Parang nakaset na yung profile na isa-send nila sa kanya of like, oh, these are her photos. Tell him she likes this. Blah, blah,
Pina-approve
blah.
ba sa'yo?
Hindi. Kasi the next day, nagising ako, may group chat na.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bilis.
Yeah. So, I got in the group chat and then it was very awkward at first. Very. And then my friend was like, okay, I'll be here to, lessen the awkwardness and then I'll just leave when you guys can have a convo going na. So I thought na she'd stay for a week maybe or a few days. But after a few hours, she just left us. And then we just started texting. And then we would text every day. But yung style ko kasi of texting, I like yung balikan kayo throughout the day. So usually when you're texting with a guy, diba, they'll like greet you good morning the next day if they enjoyed your conversation today, next day magpaparamdam sila. So he greeted me good morning. So good morning ko din siya, tapos nawala. Like hindi na siya biglang nagre-reply. Tapos when it hit lunchtime, he was like, enjoy your lunch. So I was like, oh, okay, enjoy your lunch too. What are you having, kunwari? And wala na naman siya. And then at nighttime, it was just like, hi, enjoy your dinner. And I'm like, what's his problem? Why does he text like this? And then at night, he would be like, how was your day? And then from there, every night, yun pala yung conversation window niya. So for the whole 9 months, it would be that 1.5 to 2 hour chatting time at night.
After office hours.
After office hours. Now we get to talk. And then, so yun nga, 9 months kami nag-usap. And then we had our first date December 12. And then, 4 dates lang. Tapos naging kami na.
What was it about each other that you liked? You mentioned kasi, Christel, na the group chat was awkward, diba? And, whether or not there's a common friend, I think we all know na it's hard to have a conversation going if you know nothing about the other person. What more if there's that subtle pressure na, nirereto kami, diba? Dapat may sparks or whatever.
I think for me, actually, that's the interesting thing. There was no pressure. I think what was effective for the two of us was I'm a very straightforward guy and very serious at that. Na at the onset pa lang, we sort of like laid out the ground rules, meaning
wow.
Like there were clear expectations, like great, it's nice meeting you as a friend and all that, but just want to be clear, we're testing this out and let's see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, then that's fine. If it does work out, then great, diba? Parang ganon. So I really had that tone at the onset because we were both at least on the same page that time that we're comfortable with being ourselves. That having a relationship is a nice parang add-on to it. Parang ganun siya. So we were at that stage na, we're not gonna force this. In fact, one of our common reminders to each other is misery is a choice. By choosing the wrong partner would be your lifelong misery, essentially, right? So, that's something that we were very mindful of. And then, parang the good thing with Crystal is she's very casual. I mean, I'm a very straight-laced type of guy. Kaya nga, yung opening lines ko is always, "How was your day?" And she knows naman, I'm like I usually talk about work. And she'll be the one to randomly bring up random topics about culture, about animals. Like literally, there was one time she messaged me out of the blue, "Oh, one interesting fact about oysters. They can reproduce by themselves. They have both male and female genitalia."
No,
to
they change over
or
time.
parang ganon. And I was like, okay, that's interesting.
And clearly it stayed with you because it lives rent-free in your head.
Yeah. So like for me, that was part of her charm. That randomness compared to a very straight-laced type of approach that I have. It sort of like softened my personality also. And then, it was very simple for me.
I think it worked because you know how other couples, when you start dating, you guys have to date multiple people, you're talking to multiple people, then you choose the person and go like, "Oh, exclusive na tayo." Like you have to make that clear. Both of us, we decided that, okay, this is a kaishao, but if it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work. Also, I can only talk to one person, so just FYI, I'm not talking to anyone else. The other one was like, "Okay, me too." It was so easy. Parang sobrang straightforward lang talaga niya.
When you say the word kaishao, there's this subtext, especially when the older generation is involved, diba? Na parang they want this to work kasi parang yung ipapakilala sa'yo, anak or pamangkin or apo ng friend, diba? Or someone they wanna be connected with, right? So there is that pressure, and it can get very restrictive. But with you guys, it seemed so casual because it was in the setting of the Phil Chai Kai Shao group, right? So what were your expectations of being in that Facebook group? Because we've talked about it here on the podcast, and kami ni na Kim and said we've kind of poked fun, like putting cards on the table. We've kind of poked fun at the group for existing. Kasi parang, bakit napaka-strict ng requirements nila, like with the age, and you have to be part of a Chinese school, and you have to look a certain way, ganyan. So did you guys have any expectations being in that Facebook group?
I really didn't have any
I don't
expectations.
think both of us had expectations. I think he thought he was being posted as a joke. And then for me, I was just there to watch as entertainment, like you guys, I think. Yeah. But with regards to what you're saying, na parang you guys used to poke fun at it, maybe like, yung nga, may requirements, may ganon. I guess that I can see that, but at the same time, when you're a person, tas parang you match all those criteria naman, you're just there.
Yeah.
You're just a participant. And then it's up to the people who meet each other. And then how, kasi madami na akong kilalang couples from that group eh. Yeah, they just found each other, then it worked out. It's just sort of a means or a channel for people to get to know more people. Parang how other people, they're like, "Oh, I don't want to do online dating. I don't want to go on a dating app."
Yeah.
Because they're like, "I want to meet cute." But the thing is, those are just channels and how you meet people.
Right.
It still ends up like, what's your story with that person? How you gonna make your love story? Parang ganun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, being I guess it's really just seeing the group, diba? Seeing how some of the auction posts, as you put it, or some of the casting calls, I guess.
Entertaining naman talaga siya.
Entertaining siya because some of them can get pretty ridiculous, diba?
Yeah.
Like Kim, you and I, we've spoken on the podcast and off the podcast about this one post, yung parang kailangan nakatira sa subdivision, etc.
Oh,
etc.
yeah. I'm not sure. Have you guys seen that post?
I didn't see that post, but I feel like that's a good way to screen the red flags eh. Parang the weirder they are, you're just like, obviously, I'm not gonna talk to you.
Did you ever feel that though? Na parang yung mga nandun, some of them are on the weirder side of things. So parang kaya ka nandun is because you're on the weirder side of the group.
Yeah, I think so. When it started, actually, that page, hindi naman talaga sila mga weirdo or anything. It's sa sobrang daming tao na napopost and it's your friends posting you. And it's not necessarily like they're single kasi sobrang hirap na hirap sila maghanap ng tao. Maybe they're just a bit more shy or, usually pag feel shy, you find your relationship partner in school or in college. Once you finish college, wala, nasa workforce ka na.
Right.
Pag may Great Wall ka pa especially, wala ka nang mahanap, like what avenue will you look for a partner with? Tapos, sinaksakan mo pa ng online dating and they're like, ayaw ko yan kasi sketchy, baka may scammer or ma-catfish ka. So, it was a nice avenue for them, I guess, to find. Throughout time naman, I think the less people who were posting or lahat nung good fish.
Okay.
Baka nahuli na. Tapos, since there are success stories, maybe a lot of people are still hanging on to it or posting pa.
Until now, like I'm curious, as we're recording, are there still people
posting now? I'm not sure because I haven't checked it a while.
I still see occasional pang posts.
Pero sobrang content na lang.
Here,
Okay, curious question. Since you already brought it up, like since both of you are already married, before ba, was there like a Great Wall for both of you? Was it like implied? Kasi there are two types of Great Wall. One is like hardcore Great Wall. Hindi kailangan Chinese. Or feel shy lang talaga. Or number two is like, okay, we're flexible, but then comes your, partner to be, tas hindi pala Chinese. Flexible, pero ayoko, parang ganon. What was yours like?
Yeah, yung on my side, yung stricter.
Oh.
How strict?
Like talagang dapat Chinese.
Bawal tsutsia or like
bawal.
half.
Yeah. So I've tried dating one that was half, and like imagine I was in the office at 8:30. I was making a presentation for a 10 a.m. presentation. Inaaway ako ng mom ko over text. Kasi parang, as it was like a really long wall of text. And I'm like, I can't do this right now. I need to do my presentation.
Ba't kinaaway na mommy mo?
Kasi, I mean, it's part of their requirement nga that dapat Chinese. And,
That can speak Hokkien.
yeah.
Wait, so curious, yung tsutsia or yung half Chinese, half Filipino, parang what was it about that? Kasi parang part Chinese naman. Or parang your mom just was not open
My
to that?
mom was really just not open
Can
to
she
it.
speak Hokkien?
I don't think she could though.
Okay.
Yeah. Although, well, I'm not sure kasi the dad was Taiwanese, I think.
Okay.
So ganun. So honestly, I wouldn't know because essentially we just had 2 dates and then wala na. Kasi I really didn't want to put up with the whole ano na.
Yes.
Yeah.
How about you, Christel? May Great Wall ka ba?
I don't have a Great Wall. So, my mom actually wants me to marry a foreigner because she wants her grandkids to have matangos na ilong, long limbs. Sabi ko, kaya naman eh. Matangos naman ilong niya, mahaba naman limbs niya.
But did you date someone who wasn't Chinese? Like
I
when you were in the
dated
US?
Hong Kong.
So Chinese pa rin?
Chinese pa rin. I think yung Great Wall ko is just me. Type ko lang talaga mga Chinese looking.
Yeah. So chinito lang talaga yung type mo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's it.
yung Great Wall, it's good nga that you mentioned it yourself, diba? Because I think yung existence ng Phil Chai Kaishao group and siguro on a broader scale, this network of Kaishao that dates back generations is also born from the Great Wall, this desire, diba, to keep it going. What do you guys think about the existence of the Great Wall to begin with? Na the fact na 2025, pinag-uusapan pa rin natin because it's still there.
Personally, I can see the value of it.
How so?
Like my mom specifically, her main point lang naman is really like the cultural differences, diba? Like whether we want to admit it or not, kasi like I guess there are some traditions that's Chinese, diba? Parang they want to keep those alive, which of course if you marry a Filipino, that most likely won't happen, diba? And I think there's always that fear that as my mom would always say is you don't want to end up losing your parang heritage and all that, diba, in the long run. So I can see that, but at the same time, I guess maybe it's because we're also younger that we're also a lot more liberal. For in my opinion, naman is more of like, if you do end up falling in love with someone who's not Chinese, diba? And like your values are the same, diba? I think there are more important things that you need to focus on aside from your blood, diba? To really make a relationship work. So yun, parang I think that's the at least for me the caveat, right? And whether we want to admit or not, also the problem with Chinese families is they also tend to they really don't easily accept non-Chinese, diba?
Yeah.
Especially if you're like quote-unquote pure Chinese
Yeah.
pa. So there are these challenges as well.
Yeah, same. Parang, I understand naman where the Great Wall is coming from. But for me, I think it's something to consider, but not necessarily something to be strictly upheld. Kasi having the Great Wall, sa totoo lang, like if you go date a Chinese, the odds of you guys understanding each other more, the traditions of the family, parang mas mag-work siya. Generally, parang because you understand each other lang, parang where you're coming from. But it's not like a guarantee na porke Chinese ka, you're gonna work. And it doesn't mean na porke Chinese ka, tas hindi ka Chinese, hindi din kayo mag-work. You just have that extra level you have to get through, which is yung understanding what your culture is, how you're gonna mix that together.
Yeah. Sorry, follow-up question. Since congratulations,
Yes.
you guys have a son na pala. So is speaking of the Great Wall, is that something you would also like implement or parang flexible na kayo? Like based on your answers, it seems like flexible. Or parang you haven't talked about that yet?
We haven't talked
We
about
haven't
that
really
yet.
talked about it.
Yeah, they have a good 18 years.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's go back to the kaishaw of it all, diba? So you guys met through the group. Myles, mga kabarkada mo yung admin nun. Did they check up on the status of your conversation with Christel? And like, were they very invested in where the relationship was going?
I don't think they were that invested. But yun, parang it's the same as like why Christel was there. It's entertainment, I guess, also for them. So yeah, they'd also check in every now and then. Oh, may ka-chat ka pa ba? Ganun, diba? And I was like, there's this one girl that I'm seriously talking to, ganun lang. And then, like, my friends, as kalug as they are, they're not really like crazy, also. So parang they gave me the space naman na, okay, if you're chatting, then great. And then like, yun, when naging kami na naman, I also told them na kami na. Success story, ganun yung And then,
Even more nung engaged na, then kasal na.
Yeah, and one of actually that specific admin ng group, he also just got married last year, November.
To someone he met in the group?
Wow.
Amazing.
So, I'm like,
Extra flex ba yun? Admin ako ng group. Joke lang.
Kasi from that group, diba, you would post people.
Yeah.
Pero meron din because of that group, some people were like, oh, Phil try golfers or Phil try pet lovers. Parang ganon. They create their own chat groups. They create their own barkadas. Tapos they just spontaneously fall na lang for each other. Parang ganon. Kasi I think my cousin also was from the Phil try Kaisha group. But from the chat. Not from being posted or anything. No one was posted.
So let's dig deeper into, I guess, the romance of it all. So you guys met online, diba? Essentially. And then through the recommendation of a mutual friend. When did love start to form for you guys? Like, when did you begin to feel like, okay, I think my romantic feelings na ako for the other person?
I think mine was around 5 or 6 months in.
During the video call stage?
Yeah, during the video call. I guess for me, that time, what was more important for me was like our conversations also. And the good thing, kasi it's free-flowing conversation. We had clear expectations set at the onset. We were also able to like deep dive into like our corresponding values. What are we looking for in a family? What do we plan also in our careers or once, let's say, we do work out together down the line. So these are, I guess, important conversations that sometimes, in my opinion, as boyfriend, girlfriend, you don't normally just talk about it out of the blue. But for some reason, kasi we were able to touch on these things that also made me sure with her as the decision to be my partner in the long run.
The reason we were able to touch on those things was because there was nothing to do for 9 months except talk. So I think that was part of yung dynamic din namin was it was pandemic, 9 months, hindi kami nagkita in person. And I was like seeing my friends doing car dates, grocery dates, and then nagpaparinig na ako nung time yun na parang, why can't we meet in person? Kasi, that's a very big step Like you have to meet someone in person before you can, say yes to this or whatever. And then I started liking him siguro 7th or 8th month na.
Was it something he did? Something he said?
I think it's the gradual building of the relationship throughout the months. Kasi I don't fall for people fast.
Okay.
Yes.
Mine, it takes a really, really long time. And then I don't realize it until feeling ko nakaka-relate.
Yeah, nakaka-relate. That's why I'm like staring at this.
Parang you don't realize it until parang they do something na or whatever. The funny thing was, nung birthday, we were having a video chat one time. And then parang his mom walked in. And then I heard in the background, the mom was like, oh, parang liniligawan mo ba siya? And then sinabi niya, no. And then that time, we were already like talking for 7 months, 8 months on video call na kami. Nagbigay na siya ng flowers, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like,
Nagbigay na ba ako nun? Parang
when
wala
did you give
pa.
me flowers?
I don't think I had. Because there
Anyway.
was no...
Anyway,
Okay,
Okay,
cut.
maybe
Joke
there's
lang.
no flowers.
Joke lang.
Hindi, pero parang we've been talking for a while na, and then we had regular video calls na mga ganun. So, the mom was like, oh, liniligawan mo na ba? And then, narinig ko sabi niya, no. And then, we talked about it. He was like, do you think liniligawan na kita? And I said, hindi, sabi mo hindi.
Wow.
And which I didn't say it naman bitter, but I was like, okay, I'm taking it as at face value na hindi mo pa ako liniligawan na yes, this is a Kai Xiao thing, but okay lang din naman if you see me as a friend, ganon. And then I also had to ask him parang, kasi one of his requirements was that before liligawan niya ako, he needs to see me in person. So I
Right.
was like, okay, that's fine. And then parang fast forward maybe a few weeks later, parang I gave him something for his birthday. And then that night, I think natuwa siya. He just goes like, do you think liniligawan kita? Sabi ko, no. Because you said no. And he goes like, well, now I want to make it official na gusto kita ligawan. And then I said, teka lang. Akala ko ba kailangan mag-in-person meeting muna tayo? Like, what changed your mind? I don't remember your answer.
I don't recall.
Yeah, but I was just like, wait a minute. Before I say yes, what's the difference between courting and just asking me to be your girlfriend? Because I'm the more Western one. I'm the one who was like, okay, dating, US, ganyan. Siya may description pa siya of courting, asking for my consent. And then I was like, what's the difference? And I was just asking him and he was explaining it. And then I had to be defensive. Sabi ko, I'm not asking you this because I want to be your girlfriend or anything. I just really don't understand the process. So after that call, yun, liniligawan na niya ako. And then, yun na. The next month, kasi his birthday was November. The next month, my birthday naman. Then we met. Tas 4 dates kami na.
Yeah. I guess tied to that lang, the reason why I was very clear-cut, because I also don't want things to parang get muddled up na, alam mo yung parang, I think it's very common nowadays yung parang MU tayo, parang ganun. But then, you don't really have a quote-unquote label on
Ngayon,
it. diba?
DTR na, diba? Define the relationship.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I don't want to be in that limbo. And for me also, it would be unfair also to her to have that kind of parang clouded sort of like labels nga, diba? So parang that was one of the things I clarified naman with her na why I also typically ask if I can parang court you, diba? Is to really let you know that there's this intent that, you know, we're heading towards that route of boyfriend, girlfriend, and not just parang as parang friends lang, parang ganon. Yun.
Kanina, before we started recording, I asked you guys if open knowledge ba for everybody who knows you guys, like family members or friends, na you guys met through the Phil Chai Kai Shaw group, and you
Yeah.
guys said yes.
Yes.
Like it was actually included in your wedding story.
Yeah.
Nung kinasal kayo. So, what are the... Can you help debunk like misconceptions from either mga non-Chinoys or even people who are Chinoy but, you know, don't really... aren't as open to the idea of like Kai Shao, even at least some modern setting?
Yeah. I think yung for, with regards to Kai Shao nga, yes, I think especially in the traditional sense, there is that parang quote-unquote pressure nga or expectation that ideally this relationship works out, diba? Like it will lead all the way to marriage. But I think that's where the younger generation should sort of like take a step back, right? And there should be no pressure. Because at the end of the day, Kai Shao, by definition, is really just like introducing the two of you. Diba? And it's really up to you, for both of you to then make the decision to really deliberately parang unearth, diba? Like, if you guys will work together as a couple. Yun.
For me, parang I want to debunk na if you get Kai Shao, it means you're desperate and you can't find anyone else for you.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people, they're like, oh, you failed in dating. You couldn't find someone for yourself. Let me find someone for you. Parang the people who are being Kai Shao, they're not leftovers. They're not hindi porket kina Kai Shao, it means hirap na or there's something wrong with them. It's just some people it's just a way of meeting nga. It's more convenient to be Kai Shao'd by someone if, you know, like what he said kanina, the mutual friend, if matino naman yung friend, edi matino din yung ikakaisyaw niya. Parang there's that filter na meron na, nandun na siya. So, parang don't be opposed to the idea of kaisyaw because matino din naman yung mga nakakaisyaw.
I mean, I guess you guys are very fortunate, diba? Na you were able to find each other and you were able to get in the situation where you're happily married. Now you have a child, diba? But I can imagine that not everyone who goes through the kaisyaw process is as lucky.
Yeah. Well, for me, yung nga, diba, that's why there should be no pressure. And in having said that, you shouldn't be afraid to say no, diba? Na parang let's end it here. Because I think that's also one of the challenges of people like being indecisive, diba? Na, hindi, aunt ko yung nagkaisyaw nito eh.
Nakakahiya naman.
Nakakahiya naman eh, diba? But like, again, with what I started during this podcast, right? We choose our own misery in that sense, diba? So parang if you're not honest to yourself, diba, that this isn't working and then you're gonna force it, sino rin ba yung kawawa 5 years down the line, diba? Kayo rin eh, diba?
Yeah.
So, yun lang. Parang be
Yeah.
practical in that sense.
And that's coming from a guy, because I'm not his first kaisyaw also eh. So, yun.
So you've gone on many kaisyaw dates, Myles.
Yeah.
Is it
well,
through-
technically one before her, yeah. So
Through a kaisyaw platform or is it through like an
through a
auntie?
friend.
Through a friend.
So it was my college friend. Technically, the auntie na rin. Yung mother niya, friend ng mother niya, daughter, parang ganun. Daughter of her mother's friend. Parang ganun. So I was like, yun. So, yun. Parang, I guess that's also where I sort of like learned to be clearer, diba? Or parang why I was also a lot clearer with her in terms of like setting na, hey, these are the expectations, or so that there won't be any parang miscommunication na rin. Yun.
You went through this process, diba? We call it modern kaisyaw nga kasi hindi naman na-involve yung mga aunties and yung mga ama, angkong, or your parents, right? What's something you wish you knew about the process before kayo nagpakaisyaw through the Facebook group or through your friends?
I can't think of anything.
Yeah, for me, honestly, I went in not really knowing any like process. I don't think there's any solid process, to be honest, diba? I think the main process is really just here's person A, meet person B.
Yeah.
Diba? And then after that, it's really more on the two individuals to then figure things out there. So for me, actually, that's a good thing in itself, that there's no set parang parameters of like how things should go. And that allows you to dictate your own pacing also with each other, diba?
Wait, as you two, both of you, hindi kayo like kaisyaw, like you said kanina, long-term relationship, diba?
Yeah, so our
What were-
respective partners, kilala na namin as friends
Yeah.
before we got
So what
together.
were your preconceptions of kaisyaw?
Oh, that's a good question. Ladies first, Kim. Come on.
Wow. Yeah. I'm also here, right in front. Actually, same. I think when I was like listening to your explanations about kaisyaw, I actually never wanted to like be kaisyaw. Like my mom was always like, "Yeah, go." I think I'm revealing this for the very first time here because I was single for the longest time. Like Sed's my first boyfriend. Well, it's of course first boyfriend. So parang
First and
but
last.
I did date other people naman before that. So like there was a time like I went to an art school, CSB, so no Chinese people there. So she sent me to this tour called Dynamic Tour. It's called Kwan Mo Tuan. I don't know if you've heard about it. You go to Taiwan for like
Liberty Hall ba to?
Yes, Liberty
2
Hall.
months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you call
Yeah.
it. 2 months. And then parang I was 18 that time. So obviously I had no idea na it was a kaisyaw tour. So pagdating ko,
Pati retreat, ginaganyan nila.
yeah, I think it's the same thing. So parang I really had a negative notion of kaisyaw until like I heard like, you know, people like you worked out. So yun talaga yung perception ko.
But what
Parang,
was the negative connotation of it? Kasi it sounds just like your
hindi
mom is
desperate
forcing
eh.
you.
Yeah, kind of like,
That's
yeah.
like, I don't want to do what my mom says. Parang yun lang.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, medyo similar to Kim's story na parang yung preconceived notion ko of kaisyaw is pinipilit sa akin ng mommy ko. And I have to go on a date with this person kasi sabi ni mommy
Pinilit.
kasi nakakahiya dun sa kakilala ni mommy. So I remember a couple of instances. One, like I was fresh out of, no, actually, high school pa lang or college pa lang, my mom would say, oh, why don't you ask out this girl or that girl, right? And I'm like, wala, di ko siya type, right? And then somewhere down the road, I would have crushes on like yung mga org mates ko in college. Some of them would not be Chinese. And then my mom would be like, oh, why don't you date this girl and that girl? And then she would show me the Facebook na of this girl, right? And I'd be like, not really my type. Sige, just go out on one date, right? But no. And then when I started going out with Arian, who's now my wife, this is like over a decade ago. siguro 1 or 2 weeks in, my mom's like, why don't you try going on a date with this person? And then she was really pushing it na on me. And I didn't know how to tell her I was already seeing someone at the time. And then nung pinipilit ni mommy, nakulitan na ako and I had to say, I'm seeing someone right now. I don't want to double dip. Kaya yun. So to me, I guess, now that you've helped me contextualize it, it really is more of kinokontra ko kasi pinipilit sa akin. Kaya ako may resistance towards Kaisha.
Yeah. I think it's the parents pushing what they want and then you're like, let me figure dating out on my own. Versus for us, kasi we met late 20s na kami. And then we were very intentional na, do I want to date? Do I not want to date? Especially on mine. I was like, okay, sige, I'll try it. So when you're in that mindset na you want to try it, you're open to it, everything becomes so chill. And you're more
Kasi gusto mo na
intentional. Kasi gusto mo eh. Kasi like I told you kanina before we were filming na my mom never kaishawed me, but I was asking her, kaishaw mo ko. Kasi tinatamad talaga ako maghanap. Kasi tinatamad ako maghanap. But when I was growing up, she never forced anyone on me. And then when I was ready na to date, I'm like, hey, mom, I'm too lazy to go and look for a guy. Find one for me. But she never did.
Did you ever go to yung mga singles mixers? No. Alam mo yun, sa mga Chinese, may singles mixers for yung mga Chinoys.
There are like
there's
different.
Tapos may speed dating and everything.
Yeah.
So did you go?
Nope.
Wala?
I did that. See, I told you, I tried everything.
What was your experience like?
So it was pretty much like this, like a very long table in Chiang Kai-shek. I still remember that. I went there because my friend had free tickets. So from Ika Alumni Association. So she's like, Kim, can you please join me? Because I don't want to go alone. I have an extra ticket. I have 3 tickets. Please come with me. Like, ask your friends to join me. I'm like, syempre close ko. So I was like, okay, I felt bad. Like, I wanted to accompany her. So when I got there, sat down, and you were segregated between different age groups. So parang sasabihin mo talaga age mo. So let's say this table is for ages 19 or 18 to 24. And then when you're 25, you have to transfer to the next table. So it's kind of weird. Let's say if you're in the middle of like somebody really older and younger, parang you're in this weird mix, right? And then
they're just trying to prevent yung mga Drake, diba? And striking a chord that's only
and it's like a 1-minute conversation with the other person. So it's like this. Like you talk to the other person and you have to sum up like whatever you want to ask in a minute. And then you have this, oh my gosh, you have this like form. So you have a number on your shirt, right? Like,
and then who you want.
Yeah, no. Let's say I'm number 1. And then say I like you. I'm going to check yes. But then if you don't like me, you check no. The organizer won't give your number. But if you both say yes, that's the time that they'll give the number.
See, that's just online dating.
That's the speed dating one I went to. There was also another one organized by, I think, like mga boomers or older people. So it was really, I'm so sorry, it was not that good. But it was really not that good, and you can't really meet someone in that kind of setup. Like it's like a fair. You go to different booths, and then like,
school fair.
Parang school fair, exactly. You go to different booths na required. You go to that booth and get like some paper stamped. Yeah, like that. And then you do awkward poses. Let's say there was this one.
Or your icebreaker, yung bingo.
Right, human bingo.
Hindi, may isa pa na sobrang awkward talaga. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this with some random person. Like, you have to get a random girl or a random guy, and then you have to post like a movie poster. Tapos yung mga movie posters pa nila, yung mga Filipino movies. So it's just, what? Yeah, so it's pretty much like that. So when I heard your story, it was really, refreshing. Like, that's how a kaishaw is supposed to be. Kasi to introduce, my mom always said that, hindi masama yung kaishaw. Kasi like, you're just introducing someone. You don't really have to have an expectation. So I think that's what really, what went through my head before na parang ayoko ng kaishaw.
Yeah, yun yung stand out sa akin is sa story niyo na sobrang chill niya, no pressure. I think to piggyback off of what Kim just shared, yung shobe ko actually went on these speed dating events as well. So for her, nakaka-turn off daw because you would see a long parade of guys, and then in 1 minute, what do you do? Family business. And then in her head, okay, pass. Next guy, what do you do? Family business. Okay, pass. So parang 9 times out of 10, puro family business. For her, parang ano pag-usapan natin? Kasi nasa kotiam ka na palagi, diba? Nagko-kotiam ka lang. So yung mundo mo, is just yung tiamlay. Whereas my sister's more of, she likes going out, into pop culture and all of that. So parang for her, hindi talo. So, ayun.
But I guess also kasi with the speed dating events, like 1 minute, how can you
how can you know someone, right?
Yeah, how can you know someone? The basic questions are work. Where do you live? Ako malayo, ayaw ko na. Anong school? Anong college? Anong high school?
And it's funny that they have this like bell. Like, ding, ding, ding. Like, you have 30 seconds left. Ganon.
And then it announces on speaker. Yeah. So,
stressful.
Wala talaga. Versus like when it was us, it was 9 months of conversation 9 months of conversation before we even saw each other in person, or at least for him 5 months of talking before he realized, oh, I am kind of interested versus 1 minute.
Yeah.
I feel like I just have to insert this here kasi hearing your story also made me remember like one story of a friend na kinay siya nung mom. So yung mom nagkay siya sa kanilang dalawa, and what happened was both of them weren't really interested in each other. Pero because let's say yung guy nahihiya siya kay auntie, yung girl nahihiya siya sa mom niya to say no. So they went on for so long not laying down the expectation. So I think that's something that you guys did right also.
Yeah.
Like I like that na you laid it down na parang ganito tayo. May definition talaga kesa sa limbo. So they
Yeah.
went on for like 3-4 dates until like somebody had to cut it off.
Yeah.
So ganon.
Yeah.
So as we begin to wind down here, I just want to talk about yung fact na you guys are in a very unusual spot where without the Facebook group existing, literally your family would not exist. Does that mind-boggling fact ever hit you?
I think every so often, yes. I mean, maybe I'm not the type na parang I'll wake up in the middle of the night and like look at my partner and say, "Whoa, how come I'm like together with her?" And I'm not like that there. But parang every so often, like I take a pause and like I'm thankful, diba, that the group was there, that my friends somehow, even if it was making fun of me, that I ended up finding her. But at the same time, I'd always go back to like one of our earlier discussions nga, like when we were dating was like, we were both comfortable being alone anyway, right? And every so often I'd actually imagine and like look back na parang, okay, if we didn't meet, I'd probably still be single, diba? But I'm also comfortable with still being single. So I think that's one of the things I'd also wanted to, I guess, impart, diba, for the younger generation. Like, parang aside from yung parang the perception of Kai Xiao, you yourself needs to be parang comfortable in your own skin, diba? Kasi if you know your own worth, you won't just say yes to everything. You would know when to say no to certain things as well, diba? So yeah, I think that's one of the more important nuances also for me. That yung parang your self-worth needs to be there before you also parang enjoy this sort of like ride, diba, in the Kai Xiao.
I guess for me, it's also like parang, I know this episode is about Kai Xiao.
Yeah,
so we're putting emphasis on Kai Xiao. But when you think about it, for me, even with the whole online dating thing, Kai Xiao is really just a means. It's our story. Because I can ask you the same question. What if you didn't take that summer job? What if it didn't exist? Diba? Did you ever wonder kung kayo ng wife mo mag-exist ba?
Oh yeah, totally. I think about that
So
every day.
it's the same for us. It's just like, if that group didn't exist, edi, we wouldn't even know what we were missing. Tsaka both of us also were not the, destiny, love at first sight. Hindi kami maganon. So part of the thought is probably if I didn't meet him, I'd probably meet someone else. Or if we're really meant to be, edi, one way or another, we would have met, diba?
Yeah. Oh, just to add fun fact, yung grandmother niya was actually the principal of St. Stephen's before.
So naabutan mo?
Oh, naabutan ko yung grandmother niya. So when we were together that was the only time that I was like, she's your grandmother. And
so parang he met my grandmother, and then when he met me, wala na grandmother ko. So it's just like, sometimes it's like a trippy thing to think. But sometimes we also have conversations. I go like, I feel like if we met each other years ago, baka we won't even go for each other kasi our personalities would be different. Parang may mga ganun moments din kami. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun that we get to talk like this and we get to talk about yung story ninyo. I really appreciate how open and candid you are about it because I host weddings and in my 15 years of hosting weddings, there are couples who would shy away from telling people na we met via an app or we met via Kai Xiao or whatever. So, I want to know where this openness is coming from. Like, bakit ang candid ninyo about how
are
you
those
guys
like
met?
recent years?
Yeah.
Well, for me, the first thing is there's no shame naman in terms of the means. Diba? Parang it is what it is. Diba? And for me, I'd like to think I'm more the practical type of guy. Na parang if that's how you guys meet, then that's how it is. Diba? I mean, we all have our own stories. Diba? And who is there to dictate that there's a right way to meet each other versus there's some, diba, it's wrong. So parang for me naman, there's no point in parang judging someone else's parang story if it's our own anyway, diba? So, I mean, at the end of the day, so what? Diba? Parang if nagkaisyo kami and we're happy and then kayo, parang let's say you've known each other but then miserable naman kayo, diba? Why would I care, diba? So parang I guess that's just me, diba? Parang just again be practical, be realistic, and also be open, diba? And open yourself to possibilities versus being afraid of them. Yeah.
Ako naman, like, how you meet is literally just 1% of a relationship. Like, there's so much more that goes into a relationship than how you meet. So, I feel like baka shy lang sila kasi nga yung preconceived notions of like, oh, desperate sila or hirap sila maghanap. They needed their parents to help them or they needed an auntie to help them. Parang, I guess, shy sila with that aspect. But, there's no harm. There's nothing negative about it, I think.
Kim, my questions ka pa for Myles and Christel?
Yeah, I think pretty much sums up like, what I wanted to ask, yung preconception about kaisha and everything. So you guys pretty much summed it up. It's great to hear that because the last time I met Christel was actually before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So the next time I saw her was like, oh, she's engaged and she's married. So I'm super happy.
Yeah.
Eto, I have one last question before you wrap things up. What do you love the most about your spouse?
Well, for me, the good thing with Christel is she balances me out. And why?
Prepared
No.
Halatang wedding host rin tong katabi ko.
It's something I always reflect on. Kasi I'm a very serious guy. I'm very stern and I'm very strict. And what I mean by that is like, especially with time, for example, I'm very particular. If we say we're gonna start at 5 or we're gonna meet at 4, ganon, I'll be there like 10, 15 minutes before just so that we can start on time. But you don't make me wait. Parang ganun ako ka-strict. Kasi parang, well, part of it is my love language is quality time. So, I respect people's time. So, at the bare minimum, I also want people to respect mine, diba? So, parang I have that sort of like, I guess, that seriousness with me. But whenever I'm with Christel, parang she's a lot more spontaneous. Kasi I'm Mr. Let's plan things out. A, B, C. Ganun, in sequence yan. And she's like, no. Whatever goes, parang let's, whatever comes, ganun lang. So it does stress me out occasionally. But at the same time, it allows me to have a different perspective of how I tackle life, diba? So parang that balance is something I value a lot. And even in terms of like raising our son, parang I really see that, she really cares and she really loves our child. Parang kahit minsan bangag na siya, like 2, 3 a.m., and I would really tell her, do you need my help? And she'll just like, no, go to sleep. But I'll take care of this. So those gestures, diba, those small acts of kindness, they compound. And parang I think, like honestly, interesting enough with what Kim said, diba yung your fiance is your first boyfriend. Kirsten is also my first girlfriend ever. Parang I've dated before, but she's like my first and only girlfriend ever, and now my wife. Parang she's really a good balance to my personality. Yeah.
For me, I like our communication. So we're very open with each other, even if it's like a complaint against the other or whatever. So I'm a people pleaser. So I tend to like keep things to myself. But with him, parang I push myself extra hard to be vulnerable, to be open. And instead of him being defensive or instead of him being like, hindi, ikaw lang yan, ganon. Even if he doesn't understand where I'm coming from, he goes like, okay, you're feeling this way, it's valid. So what can I do to make it better? So parang that makes it an open environment where when we have disagreements and stuff, mag-usap lang kami. So we do have disagreements, but we've actually never argued. Like wala kami yung parang sigawan, wala pa kaming fight. Sa totoo lang. I don't know if people believe that, but it's true.
All right.
So yun.
I think it's a great way to cap off this episode about kaisha. You guys probably redefined yung perception namin on kaisha, and to this entire conversation. Like we went in expecting a different flow and we came out with something totally different, and I don't mind at all. I'm not sure about you, Kim.
Yeah, I like that. Like something different. Kasi ako rin, I nakarelate ako kay Myles. Kasi I'm that kind of person who also likes to plan things out. So when I heard your conversation, I was like, wow, it's so smooth. It's so Voila, it's just free flowing like that.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Myles and Christel, for coming on.
Thank
Thank
you
you
too.
also.
And sharing your story and just being so open and candid about it. And for our listeners, some of them may be on the shyer side of things. They might have some questions pa about the whole modern kaisha process, or maybe the Phil Chai Kaisha group if it's still active. Are you open to being contacted on social media?
Yep.
Yeah, no problem.
Where can people find you and reach out?
I mean, I'm on Facebook, on Instagram.
Facebook probably be good. Yeah. So my name Christel Tew, and then his is Myles Salud.
Yeah.
The spelling for both our names is harder, so we could probably
Put that in the
episode,
episode
yeah.
description.
For sure.
We'll make sure not to mess up the spelling.
For sure.
All right. For us naman, if you want to reach out and talk about the topics that we discuss on the podcast, you can find us at Now Steaming Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and then everywhere else it's yung individual accounts namin. For me, it is @_StanC or facebook.com/StanC online.
Yeah, for me, it's at Kimberly Mas or Kimberly Mas on Facebook, Instagram, and everywhere else. Do appreciate the messages, especially like the ideas from some of our listeners. So thank you so much. For Ced, that's at Cedric C. Cheng. There's a C in the middle. And for both of us, we also do comics. I think we mentioned this in every single episode at So Asian Comics. Do follow us. And feel free to follow us.
And thank you as well to our producers and friends over at the Pod Network for putting these episodes together and making us sound good. Thank you again to our guests, Myles and Christel Salud, for coming on and being part of the show. And thank you for catching another episode of Now Steaming. And as we say goodbye, we just like to remind everyone na hindi lahat ng Chinoy
Takot magpakaisyaw.
Thank you for listening to Now Steaming. Now Steaming is hosted by Stan C, Kimberly Mas, and Cedric Cheng. Renel Cheng is our writer and researcher. Our show is produced, mixed, edited, and mastered by the Pod Network.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.